Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever episode of Lovejoy Live, just a fun little podcast where I talk about certain topics that I decide on with my friends, and we dive deep and share our opinions with each other. And today I am joined with my two lovely best friends, Maddy and George. Hello.
Hello, I'm George.
Hello. Hi, I'm Maddy.
Thank you. I love both of you very much. And today, a very fitting topic for our first topic, we will be talking about online friendships versus IRL friendships. And yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's a great topic to start with, seeing as we all started as online friends. Sorry, not online friends, as we all started as not friends and then got to know each other online. And I'm really glad that I have been able to become as close as I am with the two of you, despite never have actually met either of you in person.
Hopefully someday.
Yes. There is a promised box on at Shibuya Crossing coming soon.
Yes.
But listen, as soon as the borders open, it's on. Respectfully, of course.
I'm not even going to let you reach Shibuya Crossing. I'm just going to pick you up at Haneda and wail on you.
You really think I'm going to fly into Haneda? Whatever it is called. I'm a Narita bitch.
I'm a Narita bitch too.
Also,
you
it's like
both
swearing
wrong.
okay.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. There's no way that either of us can have a conversation without some swearing. So
yeah,
fine.
For real. Yeah. I mean, in terms of like online friendships and IRL friendships, I think for me, one of the biggest like deciding, definitive factors, I think is like the comfortability behind a lot of it. Like, I think there's a lot of comfort that comes behind confining in people who, at least in our sense, sort of started off as strangers, you know? And like, I think there's a certain level of like comfort behind the anonymity of it.
Yep, absolutely.
Because these people don't know you, like, and, you know, they have no idea what you look like. You know, they have no idea essentially where you're from, other than, I suppose, your accent more often than not. But for me, that was really comforting, because I think when you have like interactions with people in real life, or even with my IRL friends, like I think there's a sort of level of expectation as well to like have to upkeep these things, or like you have to see each other to establish the friendship. Whereas like with online friendships, I can like go away for like a week at a time, or like 2 weeks, and then I'll pop back in. I'll be like, hey, and like especially in this community, it's kind of great, because like in the nicest way, like nobody cares like if you like piss off for like a week or
Maddy,
two,
I know that's
and then
not
you
true.
like,
if you disappear for a couple of weeks,
hey, that is true. That is true. You actually did reach out to me not too long ago. You were like, hey, just checking if you're all right. And I was like, yeah. Yeah, I'm chill.
Because that,
I was like,
sorry, Maddy, that relates to something I wanted to bring up, sort of around
how
technology in a weird way makes this more immediately accessible. And for me, that sort of changes sort of online friendships, because they're all done through technology. Where it's like, with like real life friends, I could literally go weeks, months, sometimes years without talking to my friends, but they're still my friends. But like with online relationships, I often find that if I'm not talking to someone for a couple of days, someone who I'm used to talking to regularly, I start to get anxious in a way like maybe I wouldn't with a similarly close friend who I know in real life.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, I did the same exact thing.
I think that's an interesting point as well, though, because like it's a lot easier for your online friends to just disappear rather than your IRL friends. It's terrifying, because at the end of the day, like it's a hard pill to swallow that these people that you've met online, that you've connected with online, don't necessarily have any physical ties to you. Like, you don't live in the same city, you don't live in the same country even most of the time. So a lot of people don't have that physical connection, unfortunately, where, you know, where they feel like they have somewhat of a, I don't want to say obligation, but like connection to you in that sense.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I don't know, like the friendships that I've made like in this community, for me, like, is held to the same standard, if not a little bit higher, to be honest. Because you're right, George, like I talk to you guys more often than I talk to my like IRL friends, because I think when like you have your IRL friends, like it's a lot harder to meet up with them, because like there's the work schedules, there's their personal life schedules to consider. Whereas like having this online community and my online friends, like it really is like I listen to you, like I talk to you guys like when I'm on my drive to work or when I'm coming home from work or even just on my days off or when I have something positive that's just happened to me and I want to share or even sometimes if I'm absolutely pissing shit and crying and I like join
And I have food poisoning and I'm just like, yeah,
yeah.
Maddie, great. Oh, that's terrible.
Me absolutely crying my heart out and June's like, I'm really sorry that's happening to you. Like, you know. But like it's one of the most significant factors, you're right, like to have that accessibility to be able to talk to your friends like online. But it's weird because like I wouldn't call my IRL friends to talk to them like I would talk to you guys.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, something that I knew would come up very quickly in this conversation is the P word, the pandemic. It's like in the wake of the pandemic, it's sort of completely reframed a lot of relationships I have with people in real life because it's like, well, I've gone almost 2 years without even being able to meet up with some of you, and like it changes your perception of what a friendship should be, how often you should like talk to each other.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Something that it kind of goes into this whole accessibility thing, but something I've really noticed, and it's definitely happened, I think, because I've gotten older as well as being a content creator. But for me, like the word friend isn't something to be taken lightly. And I don't mean to get like, like all anime, like the power of friendship, but like the people that I consider friends are because we do have like that level of accessibility and limited time. Like people that I do consider friends and talk to daily are a limited amount of people. And yeah, like I get that we can't talk every day sometimes, but I still like, being able to hear their voices or like talk to them at least once a week. And I don't think I don't think it's necessarily too accessible because again, like it's convenient. Like I can talk to you guys, like you said, Maddie, when you're on your way to work, I can talk to you guys when I'm heading to yoga or when I'm heading to a shoot. And I can't necessarily do that with my friends. I mean, I guess we could all do that. We could call a friend, but that's not the nature of those online art. So there's IRL friendships. You meet those people and hang out, but online ones, you hang out online. So because it is so convenient, you can, I guess, do it a little bit more than you could with IRL friendships, especially in the height of the pandemic.
I wonder if it's to do with like because you have your IRL friends, there's so much to consider when it comes to like where your energy is being directed and put into. Because when you take away being in like physical and close proximity with the people around you, like I feel like that's what makes it so much easier to be able to talk to you guys for hours on end. Because like I know for myself personally, when I'm hanging around my friends in person, my social battery is very low.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because I am so, yeah, like I'm so, I think, aware of like the other person's body language and how they're feeling, and like vice versa, in my body language and how I'm feeling and how I'm possibly being interpreted and so on and so forth. Whereas, like, right now, like, we're all chatting to like our screens, but we're talking to each other and we're talking to, I'm talking to my friends, but at the same time we're in our own environment where we feel comfortable enough to be, ourselves, without necessarily having those outside factors really coming into play.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why it's easier for me to talk to you guys like on a daily or even, a couple times a week even.
Because it's on your
like,
terms.
Yeah, because it's on my terms. Exactly. Yeah.
And obviously, like the other big thing is time zones. June, you obviously live in Japan. You can probably tell from mine and Maddie's accents where we live, and like often it is hard at times to sort of reach out to online friends who live in like completely different parts of the world to you. So I would definitely say that that's a downside of online friendship. You have a very limited window during the day where you can actually talk to people, whereas your real life friends presumably live close to you. You might be able to walk to their house, get the bus to their house, and it's like that is much easier.
I think as well, like when you communicate with people like from across the world, like you have a natural sense of curiosity as well to want to get to know them because they're different from what you know, or at least from what you perceive to know. Because like my in real life friends, like most of them I've had since I was, from childhood, or they're long term friends that I've had. So in a way, we do know each other like inside and out, and I adore them. I cherish them, and in a way, like I've known you guys for almost going on 2 years now, like a year and a half. And it's the same thing. Like I'm still getting to know you guys, and it doesn't discredit what I already know about you, but there is always this natural sense of like, I think curiosity that inclines me to want to get to know more about you and everybody else that I sort of cross paths with,
Mm-hmm.
because like you don't have like, you don't have, I suppose, this preconceived, or at least when you're talking to strangers online, or if they start off as strangers, you don't have this pre-made conception of the type of person that they are, like other than the way that they talk or the things that they say.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like with our online friendships that we all got to kind of speed run like certain parts of a human friendship, and then also we're kind of like held back in others where, like, for
Yes.
example, we've never physically met, but right? I always feel that way. Like I felt like I've only been talking to you guys for a little bit over a year, but that's every day, pretty much every day, if not at least like 4 hours a week. You know, it's a lot of time versus my IRL friends. And I think because we've been able to talk so much and so consistently, I can have deeper conversations with you guys and therefore become closer with you. And but I've never physically met you or hung out with you. And it doesn't mean that if we met in person that I wouldn't be able to still have I wouldn't be able to still have those deep conversations with either of you. But it's not something that I necessarily can do with my IRL friends. I have friends offline, but I guess we're not really at the stage, or that's not really the nature of our friendship, to have the deep conversations that I have with you guys, like we're doing right now with the podcast. None of my IO friends would ever be able to handle something like this, and I'm not bad mouthing them. That's just not what our friendship is like.
I think a lot of it is you often meet online friends through like some sort of shared interest group. Like in our case, we all obviously met because we're fans of June's work in various different guises of it. And like for a real life friendship, you don't have sort of that added little bonus at the start of the friendship where it's, you know, with talking to June or with talking to Maddy, we have topics that we can always go to. Whereas with someone you've just met, just starting to become friends with, there's always going to be some anxiety where you don't know if someone's into a certain thing that you're into, or they're talking to you about something that just doesn't interest you at all. There's a lot of trial and error, I think, that goes into those relationships that maybe you don't get with online ones.
Definitely so. And I think there's a certain, like I was sort of saying like a little bit earlier, like being, at least in the beginning, like being somewhat anonymous, like even if you take those risks of sharing like parts of yourself that may necessarily not be potentially like favorably viewed by like a public setting or a standard, or like, or even in terms of your IRL friends, like it's different when you are in a community, or at least like online, where if it doesn't work out favorably, you can just remove yourself.
Yep.
But like if it doesn't work out favorably IRL, then like that sort of shifts the dynamic and like the relationship that you have with those individuals. And that can be catastrophic for some people in terms of like the relationship, not only with the other persons, but also yourself, because it can result in you potentially feeling shameful about these sides of you or these interests, you know, that you have. And like that can be really disheartening, I think, you know?
Do you think that's why we're able to have such deep conversations and open conversations with each other, because there's less of a risk? Like if it doesn't pan out, I mean, it's really fucked up to say, and please, I would be heartbroken. Like if either of you blocked me and I never talked to you again. But you can do that. Like if we had met IRL.
In the beginning, yeah. In the beginning, maybe, yeah, but not now. Like, because we've known each other for so long. And like I said, like I hold the friendships that I have with both you and June and other people in this Discord, like to a high standard. And I treat you as if like you're here with me, you know, like IRL. But like, I think once you open up to people and you show a certain sense of vulnerability, like you can't help but grow an emotional attachment to those people, because you're sharing a side of you that once was, you know, so I think potentially like painful. Like you had growing pains, you know, and then to be able to talk about it almost from a place of like fondness, or even in retrospect, like you connect with these people.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. Like if I don't think it's easy now just to like stop being friends with you guys, like just like
Right.
that, you know? But yeah, I wanted to ask as well, June, like, at what point did you sort of find yourself thinking, or like, did you realize that you're like, okay, well, these people that I talk to every day, like, at what point did you stop treating us? Well, not even I felt that you did treat us, but sort of how do I word it? What point do you remember thinking, or you found yourself thinking that, okay, these people are like
My friends.
Yeah.
More than just viewers.
More than like a fan base interaction. Yeah, like that they're your friends. I didn't word that very good, but
No, but honestly, I was hoping that you guys would bring that up, either you or George, because specifically with the two of you, it's really interesting because with you, Maddie, in the beginning, I was like, I did not trust you. I'm sorry. Like, and it's no, and I tell you all the
we've
time.
spoken about it. Yeah.
I tell you all the time that it's no fault of you. I just, for some reason, I wasn't trusting of you, and I would like, interact with you friendly, and I didn't dislike you. I was just like, oh yeah, this person is probably here to like collect information for like a gossip site. Like you were so kind and just asking so many like, not necessarily like too personal, but just like personal questions.
Me asking you what your birth chart was?
Yes. I was like, are you trying to dox me?
I was like, no, I just want to know why you fucking think like that. Why?
I think around the time that I felt like we were friends is, I guess I won't name them, but when a certain person did something very hurtful to me, and I was able to talk to you outside of like I'm just going to use the word fan, even though like viewer is just as great, but like a fan content creator interaction, I was able to have a very painful and kind of serious discussion with you that I couldn't have like on my YouTube channel. So you had kind of allowed me to open up to you in ways that I couldn't with just a regular fan. And that's when I started feeling like, oh, I can trust this person. They've shared parts about themselves that they can't share to all fans in the Discord. It's a very private thing. I know that I felt around that time, that's when I became friends with you. And then on the other side of that, with George, if he's comfortable with talking about it,
I don't mind talking about it.
Felt like we were friends. I honestly, George, I felt like we were friends before you felt like we were friends. And I think it's because, again, like you allowed me to open up to you about like a personal, like painful thing that we were both going through, and you were so understanding about it. I don't want to say that I make friends through pain, but you guys allow me to like kind of like, I don't have to pretend with anything. I don't have to put on airs. I don't have to like be careful with what I say. Don't, not be too controversial. I can just be open with both of you. And that's when I start feeling like, oh yeah, these people are my friends. I can trust them.
I suppose my perspective was like, as a content creator, as someone who's in the public eye, June, I feel like you often have more to lose in these situations. And from my perspective, why I always felt like we were friends, like even before I vocalized that feeling. But in my case, it was difficult because I understand that you're someone in the public eye. You're someone who, let's be honest, there's a lot of strange people interacting with them, sometimes in an unsolicited fashion, let's just say that. And I was constantly anxious about overstepping personal boundaries, about maybe putting you in a position where you felt uncomfortable, or basically just becoming another one of these people who are just in the comment section saying, oh, June is so hot, I love their videos. And for me, it's always like a difficult proposition, because I'm going to out myself as a degenerate here and just say, I discovered June through their films. That was my intro point to June. So immediately I'm going into this relationship with almost like a disparity of information where I've seen this person naked multiple times, and this person has just learned my name. It's there is an imbalance there. And sort of with that in mind, I was always hyper aware, almost to the point of being paralyzed, of not wanting to overstep boundaries and or objectify you in maybe a way you weren't uncomfortable with. But I'm glad we were able to sort of power through that barrier and cement ourselves as being friends, because you, June, are really important to me. Maddie, you're really important to me, and that's something which has been built up over time.
Thanks, bitch.
Thank you. I really appreciate like being given the choice, or like it being a two-way street and not just because I don't want to be like mean, but that is something that really, really bothers me about being a content creator. Is it's either for clout or for their own like pride. But there are so many people that view my channel and then just or interact with me a little bit in the Discord, and they're like, oh, June is my friend. And like, I don't want to say, no, I'm not your friend, because that's mean. But I just think it's unfair that, like people just be like, oh, June Lovejoy, yeah, I know them, they're my friend. And it's like that there are implications to that, at least for me, that if you say someone is your friend, that it's a heavier meaning than, oh, I watched their content and I've spoken to them twice in a Discord. And it bothers me. I don't like that choice or that consent to be taken away from me. And I really appreciate that the two of you allowed me to become friends with you naturally, even if I was like, oh no, this bitch is asking me for my birth chart. She's trying to dox me.
No, I was going to say, like, on the opposite end of the spectrum, like, you know, how George sort of came across you in your content. Like, for me, like, it was actually YouTube's algorithm that, like, sort of put me in your direction because you were streaming. And I think you were just like, I think it might have been that you were like chatting or you were playing Pokemon or something, and I was like, oh, let me have a geese. I was like, I'll just have a sus, you know. And it was really chill and it was really quiet, and I was like, okay, well, I'll look at their YouTube channel. And I came across your interviews, and I was such a big fan of your interview series.
Aww.
And I was like, oh, I really love this. And then that's when I started coming back to like more of your streams, and I started interacting, and we did have like more serious, I suppose, types of conversations. Yeah. Like there's always that running joke in the Discord where it's like your Japanese streams versus like your English streams, and the English streams would talk about very
like war crimes and the,
yeah,
like,
I didn't know if it was okay to say,
it's
but
okay,
I was like
But that's a really good like point, because it isn't a language thing. I could talk about the serious topics in Japanese, but that's not what my Japanese audience allows me to talk about. The comment section is, like George said, like, oh, June, you're so pretty. Oh, I love you. I want to like shove my ex in your ex, you know? And I can't, how could I ever become friends with people who say that? I appreciate it. Like as a fan, I'm like, oh, thank you for enjoying my films. But I'm just saying as a friend, that's too... Yeah. It's not enough. That's not what friends are. And one point I'd like to make in this episode, and something that I've talked to you guys about, is it's very frustrating for me when people, like, I guess kind of assume that I'm their friend automatically and without all the effort and all the hardship and all the thing, like all the time that goes into maintaining an online friendship. Because I feel like content creators don't really become close friends with their fans all that much. And I did with the two of you. And I've even met people that I'm now really close to that started out as fans. Like, it's a very real possibility, but like people just don't want to put in the work, and it's kind of offensive. Not that I'm like the greatest person to be friends with, but it's exhausting for people to assume that I'm their friend when I'm not, because to me it's a big deal. Like, friendship is a really big deal.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, I think it's one of those things where it's not just, I think, specific to you being a content creator, like in this regard as well. I think it's just at all, like, friendship is exhausting, and like you're not going to put your time or energy into something that isn't going to be like receptive to that degree. I mean, anyone in their right mind, like if you're not getting as much as you're giving, like then it makes perfect sense to just sort of step away from it. No, like, yeah, at least from first glance anyway. But I mean, like George was saying earlier, like you having a platform like it was a lot for at least from my point of view as well, to like want to try to like interact with you, because I was like, I felt some sort of hesitation as well, because I was like, I didn't want you to think that I was like pruning this information from you. But I like genuinely, I was like, this bitch seems cool. I was like, I just want to be their friend. But also at the same time, I was like, I also want to bully them, because that's how like, I was like, that's how I show love, you know?
It's how I show love. People come into the Discord and we're like swearing at each other and telling each other to Ann Hero, and people are like, wow, June is really mean. But honestly, if you come into the Discord and I'm like, hello, how are you? Oh, that's great. We are not friends. Yeah. I'm customer service moding you, dude.
Literally. That's what I mean. Like we just got a new member in the Discord as well. And we're just saying to them earlier in this week, like, okay, like you're still in that grace period. Like you're still in that the probation period of like, okay, June's being somewhat nice, somewhat testing the waters, testing the boundaries.
Because I do really like that person. I know all three of us really like that person, and I don't want to put, like, they have to just be around us and see how we interact with each other. And if the banter comes from them a bit, then it's like, oh, okay, we can bully them. But even some friends, I bet, you can't really do that. But the people I'm closest with, we have to have that banter, because I love laughing and I love just, taking a piss. Like
Taking a piss or taking the piss? Listen.
Damn it. No. I actually had a question for the two of you. Fuck.
Yeah.
No, but being bullied made me kind of forget, so never mind. Oh, no. Wait, I remembered it. I wanted to ask both of you. Okay, so as, like, fans who became really close friends of mine, really important people to me, like, what do you think, like, not every fan can become a friend of mine, right? And I always think, like, isn't supporting the content creators you like enough? Like you said, Maddy, you were like, you watched my content and you're like, wow, I would really like to be friends with this person. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but some people get weird about it. They're like, if I cannot be friends with this person is bad, or like I'm not good enough, or they put like a lot of their self-worth into their content creator liking them, like with parasocial relationships. And I always wonder, like people will come into the Discord or, you know, interact with me and they're like, June, like I pay $10 a month to be in here and you have favorites. And it's like, buddy, like I don't want your $10 if this is what it's gonna, like, if this is the stress that it's gonna cause you, because it's not worth it. You're expecting things of me that I can't give you, and it's not worth $10 at all. I don't want it. I want you to be happy, and I don't want you to resent me for things that I cannot control.
Yeah. I think you're sort of touching on something which I think is true for online and real life relationships, where people will often join a pre-existing group and see how those people interact with each other and think, oh, I can do the same straight away. But it takes time to build up that sort of level of rapport. And I think a lot of people, because of how accessible you are, June, in maybe the ways that other content creators aren't, the temptation is there, I think, for people to hop in and think, wow, June is really close with these people. I must be really close with June too, and not understand the different dynamics you have with different people. And I think it puts a lot of pressure on you in a way, because obviously I'm gonna like show you behind the curtain, break kayfabe a little bit, and say you're obliged by the nature of your job to be nice to people. Like even if it's just a fan who you're interacting with out of politeness, a lot of people won't see it that way, especially if that's sort of juxtaposed against you telling me and Maddy to kill ourselves on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I'm like, George, I love you so much. Go kill yourself. No, but like...
It's in the nature of our friendship.
Yeah. He's not here because he can't be normal, but like Nashmy, like honestly, like you said, when people join online friendship or online groups and then they see the way people interact with, like we will all rip into this guy named Nashmy who's in our Discord and our friend group. But if a new person comes in and does that, it's just so unacceptable. And
yeah. We all like stand up like meerkats being like, huh?
Yeah, what'd you just say to him? And then like the person's just like sweating. It's like, but you just told him to drink bleach. Like what?
Yeah.
He's like our little brother, and we all have to protect him.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think to follow up on that as well, I think people often, again, sort of similar to what George was saying, like people have this like pre-made conception of the type of person that you are based off of rather the career that you have, or even just this like YouTube persona to some degree. But we've described it before as like, okay, it's customer service, you know, like, but once you leave work, like once you step away from that service desk, like you're you, but at the same time, you can't necessarily drop that just like that.
Right.
Because this Discord as well, like, is a part of your work to some degree.
Yep.
Like, so you do have to put on, I wouldn't say that you're pretending or that you're not being you, but it is like as humans, like we're multifaceted, like we have like multiple layers. Like, you know, the way that I behave at work is definitely not how I behave here, I can tell you that.
But you would get arrested. No, but like Maddy, like I don't think me being nice to people is me being fake or anything. It's just like the bare minimum. Like, and especially if they're coming here to interact with me or coming into my streams. And that's what I'm saying. Like, friendship is earned. It's something that I had to talk to you guys, learn about the two of you, and interact with you for a long time. And that it's built up over time. That's not something that you can just get by paying $10 and jumping into a Discord and being like, oh, well, June Lovejoy is my best friend now. And I don't want anyone listening to this to be like, oh, well, June is full of themselves. I'm saying for anybody, if you have an online friendship, you don't have to be a content creator. Like, it's not something that you can get so easily. It's something that has to be worked on and nurtured.
Yeah.
Like if you honestly, yeah, like Maddie, like if you disappeared, I would be very, very worried about you. I do have some people who were really close to me before online who just don't talk to me at all, and they'll come back like 6 months later and be like, "Oh, hey June, how are you?" And I honestly, this doesn't put me in a good light, but I honestly think like I'm kind of bitter. Like I'm just like, you can't just like come back after, because I was so frightened. I
Yeah.
can't just go to this person's house. I don't know if
Yeah.
they're okay. Like just because it's convenient for you to message me whenever you want doesn't mean that, it just shows how I was a little bit more invested in the friendship than that person was. And I do get offended when that kind of stuff happens. Like, no, you're not my friend. Like you didn't work on this and you weren't invested as much as I am. But that's not something that happens with IRL friendships, you know?
Well, I think it really depends on as well what the actual definition of friendship means to you.
Oh, yeah, big
Oh
big
yeah,
good
this
point.
is a good one.
Because like when you say like, oh, we don't go, or we that person had messaged me for 6 months, like obviously it's a big jump in contrast if you go from talking daily or even
Right.
weekly and then they just stop messaging you. But for me, like me not seeing my friends for 6 months IRL makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like because of our work, like because of our personal lives, because of whatever else, our family lives, things like that. It makes sense.
Because of a global fucking pandemic.
A global panini, exactly. Like it is what it is. But you're right. Like if people that I have been talking to every day for the past like year and a half or a consecutive weekly basis, if we had stopped talking, you're right. I would be worried. But for me, like I am guilty like of in terms of my own like social battery and my own standards of friendships, like I don't have to talk to my friends every day, or at least I feel like the people who are closest to me and who know me, like we don't have to constantly reestablish our friendship by
Yeah.
messaging each other every day, just saying like, hey, how you going? Or like, because you can't talk about the same things like over and over and over again. Like you need space and you need time to be able to like give yourself the opportunity to, I don't know, experience life and live life, to talk about
Yeah.
new things. And there was something that you mentioned earlier as well about how, like, when you would talk about like certain experience or certain, certain experiences or certain things that would happen to you in your life, or I think what brought us potentially closest together is you would talk to us, like not individually us or even just the community, you would talk to us as it was happening, and you
Um,
would, and also vice versa, like we would talk to each other in this community, or I would talk to my friends as it was happening, and I would
mhm.
seek counsel and I would seek their advice, because these are the same people that I can laugh and talk shit with as I can like cry and confine in. So why wouldn't I take their advice on something that's like bothering me or upsetting
Yeah.
me? Like, and I think that's something that I'm really grateful for, to have like in online friendships, because like I can do the same for like IRL friends, but like at the same time, you can't ask well, with online friendships as well, but you can't easily ask and demand for the emotional like investment from your friends, I think,
Yeah.
even like IRL, like as you could online potentially.
Mhm.
But even then, like there has to be like a certain level of like respect and boundaries that need to come into play, because I don't think it's socially acceptable anywhere just to trauma dump, like without there being like a
Yeah.
pre-warning
Yep.
to be like, hey guys, like I just want to talk about something that may be a little bit heavy and may be bothering me. Just
Mhm.
having that like that setup just beforehand, like gives people the opportunity to consent or to not, to you talking about something that may be potentially triggering.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, because that to me as well is friendship. And it shows that like the other person is caring about how this may affect me and my mental state after we hang up the phone
Yeah.
call.
For me, I was speaking to June about this recently. I feel like I have quite a high bar for what I would define as a friendship. Like having a few nice interactions with someone doesn't mean that we're friends immediately. Like the people I work with in real life, I get on with them well. We talk about our personal lives in like quite a high level, nothing too private kind of way. And that I like them, I get on with them, but at the same time, they're not my friends just because we have friendly interactions with each other in quite sort of a formal setting. And with online friendships, I often feel like because everyone's barriers are lowered, where we feel more comfortable talking about things we wouldn't talk about in real life, like you were saying earlier, it's almost like speed running a relationship, but at the same time, I found myself in a situation where just because I've spoken about something that's maybe more personal to me doesn't mean that I'm friends with someone. I'm kind of like
Mm-hmm.
June, and where I feel it takes time to build these things up. A few friendly interactions isn't the same as, spilling your guts to someone. And if you are going to spill your guts to someone,
Quite
you need
literally throwing
yeah,
up.
quite
Sorry.
literally throwing up in someone's case, I will say. But
Yeah.
Who are we talking about? What is this? What? Who threw up during a voice chat?
but um,
What is this?
but with friendships, I do always feel like there is an unspoken agreement of consent, where it's like if you're going to talk about something heavy, you need to warn your friend that you're going to talk about something heavy, and if you're going to open up about that you need to understand that you're taking your friend's time, you're taking their emotional energy, and you need to be prepared to listen as well as just get something off of your chest, because otherwise it creates another sort of imbalance in the relationship where you're putting a lot into it in terms of your energy, and maybe you're not getting it back from your friend who just maybe doesn't view you as highly or doesn't think of you with the same level of respect that you think about them. And that's something which I often find is more true for online friendships than it is for physical friendships.
Right. Something that Maddie actually talked about, and actually, whenever you bring it up in other conversations, it would always make me really uncomfortable to kind of consider. And I had this fear that maybe people perceive me like this as well. But do you guys ever feel like with online friendships, like, because again, you can pick and choose the information that you share with each other? Like, everything the two of you that have shared with me in this past year could have been a lie. And I became, and like, hypothetically, like, I could have, or sorry, theoretically, I could have been friends with like a false version of the two of you, right? And I mean, that could happen in an IRL version, but I just feel like it's too much, it's a lot of effort, and
Yeah,
only a super psycho would do that. Versus online, it's really, really easy for people to just like, because sometimes it's a safety thing. Like, if someone asks you, where do you live or where are you from? Like, you don't want to reveal all that information because you don't know who you're talking
yeah.
to. But if you've revealed only false information about yourself and then you become close to these people, like, it always makes me kind of wonder, like, are these people really friends with you, or this kind of image of that you've kind of shared or put on?
For me, I feel like it's true in real life friendships as well, or IRL friendships, where you're always trying to project a certain version of yourself. You're always trying to portray yourself in the best possible light. Like, even if it's someone you're close friends with, there is always going to be like that job interview element where you want someone to see you as the one who's the positive person in every situation. And a lot of the time, it's kind of scary with online relationships where you basically all you know about this person is their word. It's not like a real life friendship where you can ask a friend of a friend who, or like a mutual friend, you know, is this person telling the truth? Is this like a mutual thing, or what's going on here? And you don't have that with online friendships. There's more risk involved in that regard because you might start talking to someone who seems nice, and then it turns out that
Right.
Mhm.
as you get to know them better, maybe they're not as nice as they portrayed themselves to be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It has to be even scarier, like, when you meet up. Like, George, I'm so excited to meet you, but if you had been like lying to me about everything and how you are, that would just be next level psycho stuff. I wouldn't even feel like duped. I would just feel like terrified of how good you were at lying. But I would call the police.
I think following up on that as well, like for me, like yes, it is scary to think that the people that we've been talking to for the past like year and a half, like could have potentially been lying to us. But I think about it from a sense of what I have personally gained from something like this. Like where like even if you guys were lying to me, like you weren't who you said you were. Like, I think about it from the standpoint of like, I've been given the space and the opportunity to be able to talk freely and openly and sort of grow into a more somewhat authentic version of myself because, like, I've made friends who like me for like
Oh.
who I am,
Yeah,
like, if that makes sense. And I know it doesn't sort of answer your question to some degree, but but I just think about it from the standpoint of like, okay, well, I don't want to go into like every interaction that I have, especially with like, you know, in a community, an online community, thinking, oh, these people may be lying to me. Like, I don't want it to dictate, you know, me potentially forming actually long-lasting friendships that could develop into like IRL friendships and like establishing them in person, and then our friendship developing that way and taking the next step. Like, I don't want it to dictate me and like that, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever had like an online friendship that moved into an IRL friendship, and how did that differ from your IRL friendships that started out IRL?
Well, I have a fairly recent example of this happening because a couple of weeks ago I met up with some online friends I've been talking to in a different Discord group I'm in for a couple of years now. But like this thing that happened a couple of weeks ago was the first time we'd all met in person, and it's a very surreal experience to meet someone who you've spoken to online, spoken about really personal things, and then see them in real life. And there's always a level of anxiety, a level of sort of awkwardness just starting out, because in some ways it feels like you're meeting for this person for the first time again, but at the same time you know all these like personal things about them, they know all these personal things about you, and they're always like going to be, I would say, teething issues when you meet up with someone for the first time. Like June, you mentioned we have plans to meet up at some point in the future, and I do, even like as close as we are, I do feel like there will be some awkwardness, some things that maybe you weren't expecting of me, and things that I wasn't expecting of you, that maybe you would pick up on earlier in a real life friendship. But I think you can make that transition from online friends to IRL friends. But like you said, people aren't always exactly how they portray themselves online, and you sort of have to mentally recalibrate yourself to how they are in real life. And that's something which it doesn't happen immediately. Like I met these friends for one day, and you know there was some awkwardness at first. Like we didn't know what to talk about, even though we met for a common interest group. We speak to each other almost every day, but it's a different kettle of fish doing that in real life compared to doing it online.
That's so interesting. Maddie, with you actually live like within like the same country as a person that I know you've met IRL that started out as an online friendship, and can engage with them online and IRL at your leisure. I mean, to some extent, but what is that like for you?
It's interesting because like I had like online friends like a few years ago, I think, who lived fairly closely to me, and we had spoken pretty often as well. I wouldn't say nearly as often as I was. Well, I wasn't as active in the community that we shared back then a few years ago. But I think it's also important to consider rather the current state of like comfortability I felt within myself, but also that community. And I think for me, like it really was just a jump of faith, and it really was just a gamble, because when this person joined the Discord, I don't know how to explain it. But I was like, yeah, like I'll give it a go. I saw them being so authentically themselves. And like, obviously I think there's a lot of like in any like situation, whether it be like you're meeting somebody for the first time, or like you are like, I don't know, meeting your friends, like obviously like you have to take like safety precautions. So like when I did make that bridge between online and like IRL, like we both mutually, well, even they initiated, okay, we'll meet somewhere public.
Yeah.
And like we went to a cafe, and similar to what George was saying, like there was, at least from my end, like I had a lot more hesitation, because like this person had met online friends before, and like this wasn't an uncommon experience for them to have. And I think that really helped me with being so comfortable. And like we hadn't even spoken that much in the Discord, but I think this was the first time that I had found somebody in here that was from the same like place as me, in the same city. So I was like, okay, well, like if I feel so comfortable in here, I was like, and this person feels comfortable here, I was like, well, what's the harm in like potentially making a friend from this? And if we meet up and we don't vibe, then so be it. It's the same as if I was talking with somebody like online. Like I'll just leave. You know, I'll just I was like, I'll just go. Like I don't owe this person anything. And I just kept telling myself that. I was like, I don't owe them anything, and they don't owe me anything. And I think that was the biggest like factor in my mind. And then we met, and then we literally sat in the cafe for like 5 hours, like just talking. Like, and then after we were like, okay, we should probably like go have a look like at like the grocery store that was next to it. The whole reason why we went there. And now like when we can, like we meet up. We meet up when we can. Like we go to like cafes, and they actually invited me out for a hike the other day, which was really nice. And like I think it is one of those things where your expectations are always like never going to match like the reality, whether it be positive or negative, because I didn't expect to like gain such like an authentic and genuine friend from this, like to some degree, because like I think it's unfortunate, but a lot of the times like we are always sort of mentally preparing for the worst.
Yeah.
Because that's what life is, regardless of whether or not it comes to friends or, you know, you're always prepping. But no, like I'm just really, really so lucky that I had such a positive experience, especially being my first time that I was meeting someone like from online, you know?
Maddy, what you talk about, like meeting someone like in a cafe for the first time, that specific thing is always a source of anxiety for me, because it's like, oh, what if we meet up in a cafe or a restaurant and they're really rude to the staff in there? Like my entire perception of this person will
This is what I'm
immediately be
saying.
shattered.
Like, this is what I'm saying. You don't owe these people anything. I'm getting the fuck up and I'm leaving. Like, there's no way. Like, that's the biggest red flag to me. Like, I don't think just because like somebody has like done you the courtesy to meet you up in person, or rather you have done them the courtesy to meet up in person, that you owe them any obligation to like bypass your comfortability and your boundaries. Like, I don't think that you should ever have to apologize for having them. Like, and that applies for like online friendships as well. Like, your boundaries are still in play, and I think that's what makes it, if you like keep them in play, that's how you find like authentic friendships, because you aren't willing to like subdue on the things that are important to you, like, and you aren't willing to cater. And I feel like to some degree it's easier to make online friends in that aspect, because like I said, you can just disconnect, you can just leave. When IRL, like there's so many things that need to be considered and factored in, like, you know, like how acceptable it is to be in society and what's socially acceptable. Like, I can't just like, yeah, it wouldn't have been right to me to just get up and leave in the middle of like meeting this person if they like told this waiter to fuck off, like, you know, but but at the same time, and me and my boundaries, and like me and my own personal history and experience with like working in the service industry, like I don't stand for that shit. And like anyone who is like my friend and, you know, would know that about me, and also wouldn't do that, like whether I'm there or not. Like they wouldn't do those things. And those are the type of people that I like to surround myself with, you know?
So what I'm getting is that a cafe is the greatest litmus test for online friendships, whether or not they'll be viable IRL or not.
Unironically, yes.
If they cheeky little food, ice latte with a pastry.
On the topic of my own experience with like, you know, bridging the gap and meeting and online friends IRL, I think there was an extra layer of anxiety for me as a content creator, because not only was it like I couldn't just get up and leave. I mean, even if I did do that, like if it didn't work out IRL, I would still have to interact with them online in my community. And I felt like really, really anxious about that on like a work level, more so than a friendship level, because not that work is over friendship, but it would have honestly hurt me more than just like personally, but also financially at that point.
Yeah.
So a double whammy. But I know you guys are going to make fun of me, but like recently, I don't know why it was so easy, but like I met up with a bunch of my friends in Vegas to the point where it was like, yeah, let's all get hotel rooms. Like, and it was all people I met in my Discord. You know, even some people flew from like the West Coast, the East Coast, and all met up in Vegas. And thankfully everything went really well. And it made me feel like now that we're all back home and we still talk online relatively daily, you know, at least 3 times a week, you know, there's an added level that has made the friendship even more intense because we've met in line and it was successful. And now we have like these IRL stories, and it's not just like, remember that one time in the Discord when we were making this joke, was like, do you remember that one time at the restaurant when we we ordered a hot dog, and like it felt like it really solidified the online friendship, the kind of like, yeah, we speed ran some parts of the friendship and became very close, but those parts where it was a little bit malnourished, I felt like by meeting them in person and it going well, it just strengthened the entire relationships.
Do you think it is like potentially part of your anxiety, that like the part of your brain that would tell you, okay, are these people like feeding me a lie? Like, are they really, do you think it is that part of your mind? like after meeting them, like solidifying?
I think if I was already going to meet them IRL, I didn't have those fears anymore. The only fear I had
Interesting.
is, I'm not even being funny, like do they smell, or do they smack when they eat, or are they rude to customer service workers? Like, honestly, that was the fear. But yeah, if I'm meeting you in person, I pretty much already feel safe around you. And I hope that never bites me in the butt, because I am warned
Mm,
often that I can be a little too trusting. But I don't
mm.
want to be punished for being friendly. So I
That's what I
would
was
rather,
saying. Like,
yeah.
yeah, like I just don't think, like, I think it's important to be cautious and to be wary of like your own personal safety and the safety of others, of course. But at the same time, like, I don't think that we're ever going to experience things that we haven't before unless we like take those chances and we take
Hmm.
those opportunities to do things that we haven't. And for me, that was like, again, bridging that gap between like having an online friend to now like an IRL friend. Like I was absolutely pissing, shitting, crying. I was so scared. I was like on the phone to like one of my other friends, being like I texted my mum my location. Like I texted my like IRL friend my location. I was like, listen, I was like, this is where I'm at. This is what we're doing. And then like it got to the point where I was in the middle of like talking to them, like our friend, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like I should probably reply to like my friends so that way they know I'm not dead, like I'm just having a good time, like and that wouldn't have happened if I didn't try, like if I didn't take a chance.
Yeah,
And but at the same time it's like, okay, well, I made sure that I was, catering to the part of my anxiety that was, to some degree like valid, and that being like my own personal safety, like if this person wasn't how they portrayed themselves to be, that being that I like drove myself there, that being it was a public place, that being that whatever else.
yeah.
But yeah.
What I often think of is the people who are acting in bad faith, or people who you maybe wouldn't be as close to. They're usually easy to tell. Like, I often
Yeah.
jokingly call
Mm,
them clown people, and for the most part, the clown people are easy to spot because they engage in the typical clown behavior of not respecting personal boundaries, or just being generally rude to you in a way that you haven't sort of solicited and stuff like that. And I do think it's a genuine, like, real sort of valid anxiety to have about people, but at the same time, I feel like you'll be able to tell even online, like, when someone is acting in good faith for the most part. There aren't many sort of Patrick Bateman American Psycho sort of level of chameleons out there who will just pretend to be a different person for so long, and then you meet them and they're completely different. Like, those people are definitely out there, but at the same time, I don't think they're super common, thankfully.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think, like, in my own experiences with online friendships, though, even though I said at the beginning of this, like, oh, I prefer to be able to talk daily or at least weekly and make sure that, the other person is alive, I have
mm,
had like a falling out where it was a really nice and close online friendship, but because of how demanding they were, because of the accessibility with the internet, I felt like we did have a falling out and no longer are friends. And
mm-hmm.
I just feel like that's not something that could well, it could happen in an IRL relationship, but I just think with internet relationships, it's even more prevalent, and can happen a little bit more readily.
I definitely think it is something that can happen in like IRL friendships,
Right.
because I have an IRL friend that I think we have different like needs to see each other, like, and that can be a little bit difficult in terms of like scheduling, but also in terms of like my own personal, without sounding rude, but my own personal desire to. And it really just came down to me having to communicate with them, just being like, look, like, I don't love you any less, but like,
Hmm.
I just value the time that I have with myself. And I also really need time to just be able to live my life in to some degree. And we were able to maintain and to keep our friendship because they just were interpreting me being distant as me not liking them. So it
Okay.
came down to me having
Yeah,
to communicate with them, just be like, look, like, it's not that I don't love you, it's not that I don't like you, it's just that our demands and our needs to see each other like aren't the same. But look, like, if there's any other way that like we can sort of work around this, then I'm more happy and inclined to.
yeah.
And like we try to talk on even on Discord like once a week now, which works well for us. But Yeah, like I think if the other person really does value the friendship to the same degree in which you do, like you should be able to comfortably be able to bring these issues and topics to
Yeah.
them without it necessarily coming from a place of aggression or attacking, you know, like you're not saying these things to want to hurt the other person. It's just to ultimately try to make sure that you're on the same page in terms of the friendship or relationship, you know,
Yeah.
just doing that check-in.
Understand each other better, right? It's
Yes.
Maddie, you mentioned earlier social batteries, and for me, that's something which I think about quite a lot. I wouldn't call myself a shy person, but I'm definitely introverted, where social interactions with people, even if I enjoy those interactions with those people, even if they're people I really care about, I have a limited amount of energy for it. And at some point, you do need to step back and think, okay, I've been talking to this person all day, or we've been talking constantly for the past week. I need to take a step back, like recharge, practice some self-care, whatever that looks like, and sort of then get back into
Mm-hmm.
it. And it's hard with online friendships where you do have that level of intensity that you don't have in real life.
Mm-hmm. Definitely so.
Have you guys, like, from a very young age had online friendships? Or because we all grew up with the internet, right? I mean, I had online friends since, I don't know, like the dawn of time with DeviantArt and Gaia Online. When did you guys start
No.
forming close online friendships? Oh, no. Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, it depends. I wouldn't say I really started having like online friendships and actual genuine friendships until I would say I was maybe like 18 or
Oh
19.
wow.
Like I definitely interacted with people like when I was, because like I grew up like the rest of us, like in the age of technology, and I had the accessibility to be able to talk to people from different backgrounds and things like that. So I interacted with things on things like Kick.
Jesus Christ. Sorry.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
What are you, a
Was
boomer?
not.
You're the youngest
Hey,
here.
Wow.
Jesus.
hey now, don't dox me like that, all right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But no, like
Oh, sorry, Maddie, you go.
I didn't really like, sorry, George. I was just gonna say, like, I didn't really actually really start making friendships and establishing friendships until I would say, yeah, until I was like 19, 18, 19 or something like that. But even then I
Interesting.
was so reluctant to actually like, I think get to know these people really deeply. And like I was always so scared as well about a safety thing, because I don't want to say the pandemic helped me get over that, but to some degree it did, because I was like, well, my borders are shut. Like, like, you know, in terms of safety, they can't even get into the country where I live, you know? But within saying that, I couldn't really find as well people that I felt like I genuinely connected to, like I did here. And like George was saying earlier, it really helped because we all had like a mutual connection to that degree.
Yeah. For me, I think I initially when I started speaking to people online, it was all people I knew in real life, where it's friends from school, and that
Oh.
was probably from like the age 11, where we're talking on. In my time, it would have been MSN, or if you remember if you
MSN.
remember the social network Bebo, we used to talk on Bebo a lot. But in terms of like online friendships with people I didn't know in real life, I would say that probably happened later in my teenage years, maybe 14 or 15, when because I'm a nerd, I started playing my Xbox online all the time, and like my first online friend I remember was a guy from Ohio, and when I was 14 years old, I thought like that was the coolest thing imaginable. Like, oh, I know this person, and he lives in a
Oh.
completely different part of the world. And isn't that amazing? And I've always been part of online communities for as long as I've had access to the internet, to be honest. But in terms of like forming friendships with people, I would say that happened a little bit later in my life, sort of mid to late teens.
Really?
Mm.
That is so interesting. I honestly, because like as close as I've become to the two of you. So do you think it's something that comes with age, or did the pandemic just bring us all close together? Because I've been having really intense online friendships since middle school, I guess. And
I
I
would
but the
say for
pandemic,
me, the pandemic did,
okay.
because like because when I had like the interaction, like the social interaction with people online, like in my later teen years and things like that, I honestly I used it from a place of entertainment rather than like of potentially building genuine connections and friendships.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, whereas like now, like when I
Mm-hmm.
join like the Discord, like I actually want to, when I joined this Discord rather, I should say, like I actually wanted to make friends with people and I wanted to get to know these
Oh.
people. And I would ask people what their astrological sign is just to get them to open up a little bit,
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you, Maddy.
And
The
then I
most
would roast
personal
them.
information. You're like, what time were you born? And where
Where
were you born?
And then I always be like, don't worry about it. Like, it's just me. But listen,
I'm putting on my sheet,
I'm-
my Excel sheet. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. That's you.
yeah, but listen, it works in my favor because now I can roast everybody
Yeah.
based on your astrological chart. But but for real, like for me, like again, having I think the pandemic sort of happened, like it did sort of make me reevaluate what friendship meant to me because
Right.
like not having like not being able to see my IRL friends like really did take a number on me. It was because I really am the type of person that likes to physically spend time with people,
Mhm.
or not even physically spend time with them, rather. Like I am a quality time, like that's my
Right.
love language.
Of
I like
course.
to I just like to just spend time with the people that I love, and whether or not we're doing something or we're not. And that's as well, like me driving to work isn't really doing anything, but if it's with the people that I love, it's still meaningful to me.
Mhm.
Like, and when for example, like I wouldn't do that with my IRL friends. Like I wouldn't talk to them on the phone when I would drive to work, but still, like I wouldn't have to think about that time away from them, if that makes
Mhm.
sense, because like we didn't have like the social restrictions that had been implemented. We didn't have, all of these factors that needed to be considered and taken into play.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Maddy, I just wanted to circle
Wow.
round to the point you just made about you joining this community with like maybe the express interest of making friends, because I feel like I came into it from a very different angle where I was very reluctant to
Oh.
join this community initially, just because I assumed it would just be populated solely by the people I see in the comment section of June's tweets of their videos, where it's
Mm,
just like, oh, June is so hot. And it's like, well, I don't disagree with you, but at the same time, that's not why I'm here. I was very
mm.
pleasantly surprised to discover that, no, there are some really cool people in this community. I've made some really close friends here, people who I value very highly.
I think for me as well, though, it was like because I had been watching June's streams and like I noticed there was quite a few like regular people coming back, like George, you were one of them, like Nashmy was one of them, and like a couple others. And I was like, it would be really nice to be able to have like deeper conversations with these people and actually get to know them because they seem to have or to almost be like-minded. And I was like, well, this would be nice to talk to them you know, outside of the time that June was streaming because I don't want to have to wait until like 8 or 9 p.m. I was like, I want to talk to these people like, in the morning, or I want to talk to them
Oh.
whenever it's accessible for me or for them. And, and then to have this community, like obviously you get your few, like I said the other day, and if you're from where I'm from, you get your few how you goings, but
Oh my God. It's not a thing.
it is a thing. We'll argue about this later. But like but it was nice for me because like similar to you, George, as well, like you were saying, like I knew there was gonna be a few people that, would have used this space purely for I think potentially like exploitive like reasons or even like overly like sexually provocative reasons, which in some aspects I'm really glad that isn't the main like focus and priority of this space, because I think there is the opportunity to make genuine friendships and connections with people who do encourage you to follow a more authentic route towards yourself. And that's what I feel like I've had the opportunity to do so here, because you know like the parts of me that I wouldn't necessarily have felt inclined to share with my IRL friends, I did here, and then to make friends with people who actually love me for me, even the parts of me that I may have felt potentially shame about in the past, really has done wonders for the relationship that I have with myself, but also others. And that's one of the biggest, I think, definitive factors that I could make, at least from online friendships to IRL friendships. And it's not to say as well that those potential like routes aren't an option to have with your IRL friends. But again, there's so many things that need to be considered and factored in that we'd already touched on in the past, or earlier in this episode, rather, I should say. But yeah.
Yeah, actually hearing the two of you talk about the nature of the Discord and just kind of reflecting on that. I know that's not necessarily the topic of this podcast episode, but that
Yeah,
it is where
sorry.
we all met. No. But
Yeah.
like as someone who is a like without like just a sex worker, like I make adult content, right? Like you would imagine that the Discord community would be somewhere where people who indulge in the adult content could like express all of that, but I honestly never wanted it to be that way, and that's why I never made a Discord, because that would exhaust me. Not that I don't like it, and I love making the content, and I love hearing like, oh, like your film was amazing. It was I enjoyed it so much. That means a lot to me, but it's not something that I can do 24/7 because that's not all I do and not all I want. And especially to become friends with someone, I I love hearing, like, even George will give me advice about certain things, certain content, or just tell me about a film that he liked. And I never, like, it's very nuanced, but I never feel like grossed out or creeped out or anything, because there is that rapport of already
Yeah.
being friends. Like, we
Mhm.
have, it doesn't feel like predatory or gross. And I don't want anyone listening to this to ever feel ashamed of enjoying my adult content, but I'm just really grateful because I make it for people to enjoy. Please watch it. But no, I'm just really grateful at the way the Discord turned out. And I don't think it was necessarily anything that I did. I think I just kind of lucked out and got really nice people in the beginning that kind of set the standard on how we interact with each other. And also, I just wouldn't engage when people were like overly sexual because I don't know who these people are, and it's not something I want to do in a group setting, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
no,
I
absolutely.
really thank you guys for that.
No dramas.
Well, all right. Thank you guys so much. That was so pleasant. I know we have like really deep and long talks, sometimes 4 or 5
Yeah.
hours straight.
Mm.
And we're like, maybe we should record these. And it did feel a little bit different because I definitely was like not screaming into the mic or saying like, go drink bleach. I was restraining myself in that aspect, being a little bit more professional. But I feel like we got out some really nice points, and I'm going to like cherish this. It sounds like kind of flowery language, but I'm really glad that we have this recording now.
Yes,
And it
it's
was
really
really
nice.
fun to do it with the both of you.
Especially after talking about it too, it's nice to actually put some manifestation to it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm excited to see
Thank you for
how it
having us,
goes.
June.
Here's to a long friendship. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Here's to me kicking Maddie's ass in Shibuya Square and sticking my tongue down George's throat in Haneda Airport. That is friendship.
Fuck off.
Alright. And to
Love you,
wrap this up,
bitch.
I love you, bitch. To wrap this up, so moving forward, I would like to do more episodes, you know, maybe not always with Maddy and George, but other friends, maybe with Maddy and George. So if anyone listening to this, if there's a topic that you'd like us to cover, or if you have any feedback on it, maybe leave a little comment. It'd be nice to read. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to this. This was really pleasant to do with friends.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.